promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Cotonou. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink, and here are our top stories. Senegal's parliament rejects President Diomaye Faye's proposal for a draft constitutional review as opposition files censure motion.
Je voudrais insister, mes collègues l'ont dit, sur la violation.
The Prime Minister has violated the Constitution by refusing to make his general policy statement and by refusing to ensure that the institutions we represent are respected.
Electoral Commission in Ghana vows to expose officers caught in malpractices.
The Commission would like to assure the public that it will not shield any of its officers, both permanent and temporary, found complicit in any electoral malpractices.
In Nigeria, reactions continue to trail the trial of 10 and bad governance protesters, and Guinea records its first Mpox case. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is a more edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us, and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. Let's begin here in Senegal, as the parliament on Monday rejected President Bassirou Diomaye Faye's proposal to dissolve two state institutions. The bill to revise the constitution submitted by President Faye on August 27 was defeated by 83 votes to 80 after a marathon plenary session. The former president's coalition, known as Benobok Yaka, holds a majority in parliament and therefore voted against the bill. The bill aimed to eliminate two institutions, the Economic, Social and Environmental Council and the High Council of Local Authorities. The government presented this measure as a step towards institutional and budgetary rationalization. However, this rejection, according to governance experts, could have unforeseen consequences because President Faye, having received approval from the Constitutional Council, may proceed to dissolve the legislature. The country remains to see the next move from Diomaye Faye, who is currently in Beijing for the China-Africa Summit. Meanwhile, the parliamentary group Benobok Yaka BBY, the opposition majority in the National Assembly, has, through its president Abdou Mbow, announced that it wants to file a motion of censure on Tuesday against the government led by Ousmane Sonko. Speaking during the examination on Monday evening of a bill whose adoption would lead to the dissolution of the High Council of Local Authorities and the Economic, Social and Environmental Council, Mr. Mbow notably deplored what he considers to be a violation of the Constitution by the Prime Minister. The head of the BBY group criticized the Prime Minister for not wanting to make its general policy statement. The bill amending the Constitution to abolish the HCCT and the SESI was rejected by the National Assembly by 83 votes to 80.
Nous sommes aujourd'hui là pour examiner ce projet de loi de révision.
We are here today to examine this constitutional revision bill, but it is going to be difficult to say a few words, because when you have a group of talented people making speeches that have enlightened the Senegalese people, you can be proud of that group. Dear colleagues, I am proud of you. You know, the measure that is close to bringing us this bill today is not urgent at all. It is brutal and premature. As you know, Mr. President, the government of the cities of Africa advocated the creation of the High Council of Local Authorities. And President Macky Sall, in his capacity as President of the African Union, made the case, and it was agreed that Senegal would be given the seat. Abolishing this institution would be a step backwards. I would like to stress to my fellow MPs that the Prime Minister has violated the Constitution by refusing to make his general policy statement and by refusing to ensure that the institutions we represent are respected.
Il n'a pas voulu que les institutions que nous incarnons soient respectées.
That was the leader of the parliamentary group Benobok Yaka here in Senegal. Well, in Ghana, the Electoral Commission has said it will not shield any officer involved in electoral malpractices. During a press briefing in Accra, the country's capital, the Commission provided an update on its investigations into unauthorized voter transfers. The Commission's Northern Regional Directorate reported that some voters from two polling stations in the Tamale South constituency and one polling station in the Sangerigu constituency were allegedly transferred to the Posiga constituency in the Upper East region without their knowledge or consent. The Commission has also denied allegations that it is manipulating the voter register to favour any political party. WDR's Nadine Tete reports.
The EC confirmed that unauthorized voter transfers occurred in the Tamale South and Sanaraku constituencies. According to Deputy Chairperson of the EC, Dr. Bosman Asari, who addressed the press briefing in Accra on Monday, preliminary investigations revealed that 38 voter transfers were carried out using the credentials of an Electoral Commission official.
The records of those transfers are captured in the voter management system's audit logs. A look at the verification done during the transfer process shows that the photos of the voters from their voter ID cards were used for facial verification and to effect the transfers.
To prevent future occurrences, the Commission says it has introduced a liveliness check feature to ensure that only live present individuals are verified for transfers. Additionally, the Pusiga District Electoral Officer at the center of this has been suspended pending further investigations, with the Commission pledging to take all necessary action to ensure transparency and integrity in the electoral process, as it denied claims of bloating the register to serve a particular party's interest, an allegation leveled against the Commission by the main opposition NDC.
The Commission would like to assure the public that it will not shield any of its officers, both permanent and temporary, found complicit in any electoral malpractices, and will always allow such persons to face the full rigors of the law. It is also absolutely untrue that the Commission has added names to the voters' register in a bid to rig the elections for a particular party. Those allegations are without merit and should be disregarded by the public.
The Commission also emphasized that the provisional voter register is not final and that the exhibition exercise is meant to correct errors. It has committed to ensuring a credible final register for the 2024 general elections and reaffirmed its dedication to transparency and fairness in the December 7, 2024 elections. For WADR, Nadine Tete, Accra.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Guinea, lawyers of Musa Dadis Camara, a former junta leader convicted by Conakry Criminal Court in the case of the September 28, 2009 massacre, have decided to appeal the case at the ECOWAS Court of Justice. Here's details with Etta Chisu in this report by WDR's Chenaf Ibrahim Abade in Conakry.
The defense team of Captain Musa Dadis Camara remains indignant, seeking to have the regional courts annul the tribunal's decision convicting the former Guinean junta leader of crimes against humanity. They also want to order the Guinean judiciary to revoke the arrest warrant issued against him prior to the trial for the events of September 28, 2009. After appealing the Conakry court's decision, which sentenced their client to 20 years in prison for his role in the September 2009 massacre, they are now turning to the ECOWAS Court of Justice. In 2022, before the trial began, the prosecutor of the Dixon Court placed the former junta leader under arrest. Dadis Camara's lawyers have announced that they will argue before the ECOWAS Court of Justice for the annulment of this decision. Meanwhile, when questioned on the matter, the civil party's lawyers dismissed the defense team's move as insignificant.
That was a report filed by our Conakry correspondent, Chenaf Ibrahim Abade, and voiced by Eche Atiso. Elsewhere in Liberia, the subject of prosecuting individuals responsible for war crimes that led to the death of over 250,000 Liberian citizens remains a significant concern for several civil society organizations. Over the weekend, the Liberian government marked the 21st anniversary of the Accra Comprehensive Peace Agreement, which brought an end to the country's long-standing civil war. Signed on August 18, 2003 in Accra, the peace agreement was the final peace pact signed in the Second Liberian Civil War. At the commemoration ceremony, the Liberian government, represented by Minister of Justice Oswald Twe, once again affirmed its commitment to establishing a war and economic crimes court to prosecute those responsible for the country's civil wars. However, some civil society organizations are worried about the delay in establishing this court. Augustine Coley has more details in this report.
Liberia's Justice Minister, Councillor Oswald Twe, representing President Joseph Boakai, emphasized the importance of fully implementing the Truth and Reconciliation Commission as a crucial step towards ensuring justice for victims of the country's civil war. The Attorney General of Liberia stated that those responsible for war and economic crimes must be held accountable for their actions.
Today, as we celebrate this remarkable milestone, for peace to be sustained, we must hold people accountable for their actions so that they do not go away with impunity, creating the Office of the War Economic Crimes Court, which is charged with developing a necessary framework to prosecute individuals responsible for the most egregious crimes committed during our civil war.
However, despite the government's renewed commitment, some civil society organizations are urging the government to expedite the process of delivering justice for victims of war crimes. Adam and Dempster, who heads the Coalition of Civil Society Organizations for the Establishment of War and Economic Crimes Court, expresses this viewpoint.
The time is running because the executive order that was signed by President Joseph Boakai on May 2nd, it has a 12-month lifespan. So between May 2nd to September 2nd, you know that we lost a few months in between, and the office itself has not started functioning yet. So in order to achieve some of the objectives that is earmarked for this office, we had to make use of the time.
Moreover, Dempster mentioned that the coalition of CSOs is currently advocating at the United Nations General Assembly for a resolution to establish the tribunals in Liberia.
We are still pushing the international community in terms of the United Nations General Assembly to pass a resolution like it did for Sierra Leone Special Court to give a go-ahead to a state party which is Liberia as a support for the court to be established and carry on its function.
On May 2, 2024, Liberian President Joseph Boakai signed Executive Order Number 131 for the establishment of a War and Economic Crimes Court, more than 2 decades after the war's conclusion.
Augustine Coley filed that report. We head to Nigeria, where a federal high court has remanded 10 protesters in prison for their involvement in the recent End Bad Governance demonstrations. The protesters who pleaded not guilty were arraigned on charges of treason, mutiny, and intent to destabilize Nigeria. WDL's Usman Maro in Abuja reports.
The Federal High Court in Abuja ordered 9 male protesters to be held in Kuje prison in the Federal Capital Territory, while a female protester was sent to the Suleja prison in neighboring Niger State. The trial and ruling on their bail applications are set for September 11. The defendants face 6 counts of alleged treason, conspiracy, and inciting mutiny. They are accused of levying war against the state, attacking police officers, and burning government and private buildings. Amnesty International has condemned the trials, calling them a disguised exercise aimed at punishing dissenters. The organization demands the immediate and unconditional release of all protesters arrested during the demonstrations. Similarly, lawyers who came to the defense of the protesters expressed their dismay, saying the trial is an attempt to silence opposition.
It is quite unfortunate that the government that has benefited more than any other in the history of Nigeria from protest and dissent has the balls to arraign Nigerians for peacefully protesting and demand for social justice. It is trite that protest is a right, and protest can never be criminalized by anybody or any government in Nigeria.
For us, very simple. We are happy that finally protesters have been charged. Unfortunately, instead of charging them for protest, the Tinubu government has charged them for terrorism. What an irony of some sort.
A government prosecutor speaking on a Briton declared wanted by the police over allegations of supporting insurrection in the country has this to say.
From the investigation conducted, it was revealed that it was a planned action which was coordinated by a British citizen. He incited our people, the Nigerian people, to revolt against the government.
The protests, which took place from August 1 to 10, were sparked by economic hardship, inflation, and government policies. Demonstrators demanded the restoration of petrol subsidies, forex regime reforms, and action on food shortages, unemployment, and corruption. The protests, however, turned violent in some states, with hoodlums burning vehicles and looting warehouses. Police reported 7 deaths during the incidents, but denied responsibility for the fatalities. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Omar reporting from Abuja.
Meanwhile, after a year of its launch in May 2023, Dangote Refinery on Tuesday rolled out its first premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, from its 650,000 barrels per day facility. At a press conference, owner of the Lagos-based refinery and billionaire businessman Aliko Dangote declared that it is a celebration day for Nigerians. Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, faces energy challenges with all its state-owned refineries non-operational. The country is heavily reliant on imported refined petroleum products, with the state-run NNPC being the major importer of the essential commodities. The refinery owner said as soon as this company finalized modalities with the Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL), the product will hit the market and neighboring West African countries.
Today is a very, very special day, which I think Nigeria has not produced petrol, which is gasoline, for very, very many years. For creating the environment for us to thrive and also achieve this monumental task of giving energy to our people for growth, development, and prosperity. I think this has been really, really a very, very great, move. And I think, as you know, there's quite a lot of what you call round tripping, where people now do documentation and the fuel does not come into Nigeria, and this is a fact. So right now, as we have this refinery working, it will show the true consumption of Nigeria. We can track every single loaded trucks, and we will try as much as possible to track the loaded ships.
Aliko Dangote, chairman of the Dangote refinery, speaking there. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online on wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Senegal's parliament rejects President Faye's proposal for a draft constitutional review as opposition filed censure motion. Electoral Commission in Ghana vows to expose officers caught in malpractices. In Nigeria, reactions trailed the trial of 10 and bad governance protesters. And still ahead in the news, Guinea recalls its first Mpox case. And we do have a guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Well, don't forget you can listen to us live on wadr.org and follow our live stream on YouTube and Facebook. In the Gambia, operatives of the Drug Law Enforcement Agency have seized significant quantities of cocaine and ecstasy pills at the Jiboro and Amdalai axes along Gambia-Senegal border posts. The cocaine seized by the agency officials has a market value of $14 million, or its equivalent of $220,000. The seizures, which included Kush, also saw the arrest of Senegalese and Sierra Leonean nationals. From Banjo, Sanglo Janko has more details.
The seizures happen on the heels of ongoing reforms aimed at the agency's capability to effectively tackle the illegal drugs menace and address the overall drug situation in the Gambia. Usman Sediba is a spokesperson of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency of the Gambia.
Our operatives that are stationed at Amdalai border posts arrested a Bissau-Guinean national and the person of Aruna Kasama with 11 blocks of cocaine that were concealed in the trunk of a Toyota Land Cruiser with registration number RGB 1077CH.
Meanwhile, two Senegalese nationals by Sheikh Job and Cherno Jallo were arrested at the Amdalai along Senegal-Gambia border post with a total of 322 ecstasy pills. Both suspects were heading to Senegal from the Gambia. In a similar development, a Sierra Leonean national was also nabbed by the authorities. Usman Sediba again.
Adama Kuruma, a Sierra Leonean national, a female Sierra Leonean national, was arrested at Brikama Suba Ward on the 28th of August 2024 around 1000 hours GMT onwards with 71 wraps of Kush.
Other arrests involve Gambians with either cannabis sativa or ecstasy pills. All the suspects were taken into custody while further investigation into their respective matters continue, according to authorities. The Gambia has witnessed a surge in illicit drug use in recent years, and authorities have vowed to tackle the menace head-on. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Sankulu Jango reporting from Banjul.
Let's go to Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, where the preparatory meeting for the 16th conference of the parties COP 16 of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification concluded on Monday. The conference is scheduled to take place in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia from December 2 to 13, 2024. Africa hopes to make its voice heard at this event and ensure that the continent's concerns are considered in international decisions. To achieve this, the continent aims to consolidate a common position in the face of growing environmental challenges that threaten its populations. Ogubierika completes the story sent in by our correspondent in Abidjan, Alban Ade.
The meeting allowed delegates to discuss three major priorities: identifying the continent's main concerns, formulating a common position, and determining negotiation strategies for COP16. Bragai Lamizana Jallo, head of Global Policy Advocacy and Regional Cooperation at the United Nations, stated,
Today's meeting was a moment for us to present our reports, discuss what has been done and hear from the states again, show what we want and at what level we want to elevate the convention for the COP, which will take place in Saudi Arabia at the beginning of December.
Mr. Parfait Kwadjo, Chief of Staff at the Ivorian Ministry of Environment, emphasized the importance of African unity in the fight against desertification.
This is an important opportunity for all the countries and parties coming for the convention to review the implementation of commitments made during previous sessions, share their hopes and discuss the projects that can be developed or the issues that are dear to them. Issues on combating desertification and other questions that have a lasting impact will also be discussed.
It should be noted that Africa loses approximately 4.4 million hectares of productive land each year, posing significant challenges to sustainable development. Hence, the necessity for the continent to speak with one voice to consolidate a common position against the growing environmental challenges threatening its populations.
A Gaberica voiced a report as filed in by our Abidjan correspondent Albin Ade. Now, Guinea's National Agency for Health Security ANS announced on Monday evening a confirmed case of monkeypox in the country. This first confirmed case in the country was recorded in the commune of Macenta in the forest region of Guinea. Local media reported that the patient is a 7-year-old girl, according to the confirmation sheet, which was taken on August 30, and the sample was sent to a virology research center. Guinea is the third country in the sub-region to report a case after Nigeria and Côte d'Ivoire for this epidemic, whose main focus is Central Africa, particularly in the DR Congo. Recall, monkeypox was declared a public health emergency of international concern by WHO on the 14th of July 2024 due to its alarming spread.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, in this segment, we take you back to the story from Nigeria, where reactions are trailing the trial of the leaders of the End Bad Governance demonstrations, which rocked the country last month. Amnesty International Nigeria has described this trial as unfair and a ridiculous thing for the government to charge them with treason, especially when a trial does not meet the indices of a fair trial. Speaking to WDL, the country director, Issa Sanusi, said the accused have not even been allowed to clearly understand the implications of what they are being charged with and have been denied access to even to see their families.
Amnesty International condemns the entire trial, and we consider it to be a mockery of the rule of law. We believe that the trial shouldn't have happened. Even the detention of the leaders of the protest shouldn't have happened in the first place. We believe that people have the right to organize peaceful protests, to press demands on the government, to make their voices heard. Therefore, punishing them for doing that is outside the rule of law and is unacceptable. We believe that the whole trial is a spectacle of the violation of human rights. It is a total and outright effort to demonize protests and protesters. And we believe that this shouldn't be happening in a country that has a free democracy and in a country where people have the fundamental human rights to come out and assemble and press their demands on their leaders. Definitely, right from the beginning, Amnesty International is against the entire trial because we consider it to be unfair, because it does not meet all the indices, all the yardsticks of a fair trial. Those detained and those on trial have not been given opportunity to get legal assistance. They have been denied access to family, and they have not even been given the opportunity to clearly understand the implication of what they are being charged with. And it is such a ridiculous thing for the Nigerian government to charge them with treason. Treason carries the death penalty in Nigeria, and it's so unfortunate that instead of making sure that government is listening to the cries of the people. It is rather punishing them for crying. This is quite unfortunate and unacceptable.
Well, the current administration has always been saying that Nigerians do have the freedom to air their views, associate and do whatever, that is within the Constitution. In this case, how would you describe this trial of these leaders of the End Bad Governance protest?
What is happening is just a small and symbolic sign of what is to come in the future, because it shows that this government has no respect for human rights and it is not ready to comply with human rights. This is a sign that in the near future we are going to see more attack on human rights. We are going to see a situation whereby activists are demonized and intimidated and harassed. We are going to see a situation whereby there will be no accountability for human rights violations across the country. And this is unfortunate. We have to bear in mind that President Bola Tinubu came to power through voting, and voting is done by people. So if those people are crying, the government should listen to them, not punish them.
It's Sanusi, the country director of Amnesty International. And here is sport news with Sankulu Janko.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. 3 Ghana coaches, including the national football team head coach Otto Addo, are said to be in a stable condition after a car crash. The other coaches involved in the car accident include assistant coach John Panstil and goalkeeping coach Fatawo Dauda. The accident occurred when the SUV was reportedly wrecked in a collision with a pickup while they were traveling back to Accra during the weekend after a scouting trip. The 3 Black Star coaches who were rushed to the hospital in Takoradi for emergency treatment are said to be in a stable condition. All 3 members of the technical team are in stable condition and will undergo further medical assessments upon their return to Accra, a statement from the Ghana Football Association reads. The 3 coaches are reportedly due to undergo further investigations before preparing the national team for upcoming Africa Cup of Nations games against Angola and Niger. And elsewhere, Nigeria international Victor Osimhen has agreed to join Turkey's club Galatasaray on a season-long loan from Napoli. This comes after the forward fell out with the Italian club, leading to losing his number 9 to Lukaku, while he was also told he wouldn't play for the club again. The contract details, as per reports, include a 75 million release clause, with Napoli retaining the option to extend the contract until June 2027 if they fail to sell Osimhen by June 2025. The loan move to Galatasaray will last until June 2025, with the Turkish club covering Osimhen's 10 million salary, according to media reports. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And that's it on this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudiju for the technical support. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms: X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WDR News, and Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. I am Imo Edit. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Baga, Liberia.